Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. All right, I'm just gonna make sure everything's working over here on my end. Looks like it is. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jenny Ponsorek. My background is in the amazing field of school psychology. I have been part of this field for over 20 years, and gosh, what are some of my favorite things to do? We're definitely going to talk about evaluations today. I have to admit, I do love evaluating students, putting on that kind of investigative hat and figuring out why this student is struggling in school. Definitely one of my favorite things to do as part of this field, as well as consulting and supporting other school psychologists. I've been able to do that over the last couple of years. I do lots of trainings for school districts around lots of different fun topics, including learning disabilities and report writing and dyslexia and fun conversations like that. I also am the founder of the Prepared School Psych community, where we help support school psychologists through providing them with resources and support so they get all their questions answered. And I also have a small private practice as well. And that kind of led me to the topic of our conversation for today, which is explaining our evaluation results. And lots of different words to describe it. Here are two words that I try and describe because we do in our field super comprehensive evaluations, right? We are addressing all areas of suspected disability. Our teams, when I reflect back 20 years ago, what my evaluations look like and my reports look like versus today, oh my goodness, we're doing such a great job. And I want to make sure that when I'm explaining my results, whether that's part of the report or verbally at the meeting, that I'm being comprehensive, that I'm making sure to include all the information that, our team has collected. But at the same time, I love the word succinct. I love that. I'm a bullet point kind of human being. I like that succinctness as well. So this is where I'm at right now. Now, those of you who have heard me talk, I am a fairly reflective person. I like reflecting on what's going right, what's not going well. And I've definitely over the last couple of years been really reflective on report writing and explaining results verbally. And I think this is why this is one of my kind of focuses over the last couple of years. For a very long time, when I first got into this field, I mainly worked at the elementary level. And I bring that up because most of the time, the people who were at my meetings were parents, right? Because we're talking about elementary school. Wasn't a lot of opportunities, maybe a random fifth grader that we might invite to a meeting. But it was really my whole goal was to make sure that the parents really understood what we learned about their child. And one of the things that has happened over the last couple of years is I've really extended my age range that I've been working with. And I've had a lot more opportunities to have students in the meetings themselves. And that has really had me think about how I'm explaining my results. I've even had a couple of opportunities where my students are 18 plus, and they've chosen not to have their parents involved in the whole process. And I'm just talking to them. Very different than talking about a second grader to the parents, right? Also been really reflective of this because over the last couple of years, as I mentioned, I have a small private practice as well. And for most of the kids that I evaluate in my private practice, in addition to kind of the parent debrief meeting, a lot of times I offer a student debrief meeting as well. So again, I'm trying to think, we've either as a team or myself have written this super nice comprehensive report. How do I talk about this in a way that isn't going to take hours and hours and hours, but is going to get the right message across? And so I think that's one of the reasons why I've really been thoughtful about this and really trying to figure out what's been working for me and what's not been working for me. And this is still an area that I know I need to continue to improve upon. I definitely have some of those gold star meetings where at the end of the meeting, I'm like, I did an awesome job. I think everyone fully understood and I felt really good about how I explained it. And I tried out something new and it really worked out. And I have some meetings that at the end, I'm like, wow, I could have done a little bit better. maybe I was feeling a little nervous. I don't know about you guys. I still get nervous in some of these meetings. And sometimes my brain's not working 100%, right? Sometimes we're super tired. Sometimes we're kind of hungry. And sometimes I'm just like, wow, did they understand this at all? So, wanted to just kind of talk about some of the things that I have been thinking about as I've been reflecting on this. Now, we're recording this, late May here, right? And this is a great time to think. It's a great time to reflect. It's a hard time to be like, and I'm going to try something new. So I'm just going to invite you to reflect. And for those of you who still have a number of meetings to go, get through those meetings in one piece, right? Take care of yourself getting through that. And then maybe in a couple of weeks when the students are out, you might have a little bit more time for some reflection and some thinking about, what do you think about how things are going? I have always felt like I've had some people on the different teams I've worked at, whether I reflect back when I was working at 3 different elementary schools, or a lot of my work now, I kind of help out with a lot of overflow assessments. So I might be taking a case with this team here and then another case with that team over there. I have really found it to be very helpful to find someone to give me some feedback, right? Because I have thoughts about how I did, but I love finding that super honest person on your team who's going to be able to give some feedback as well. So it's not just me. So at the end of the school year, I kind of already have my list of people. I'm like, okay, what did you think? How could we improve as a team? How could I improve in my explanations? And I think one of the first things we always want to make sure, especially when we talk about report writing, right? When we're explaining our comprehensive results in the report format, this can be hard sometimes because there's a lot of what I refer to as template language, which is just language that's in my template that's a copy and paste from federal or state regulation language, right? Most of us have that in there. And it's hard because it doesn't make, in my opinion, my reports the most parent friendly, right? Because I just copy and paste this information on in there. We usually put it in italics, right? So someone knows like, I didn't write that. That's a copy and paste. And then depending on which state you practice in, what district you are in, you might also have some other guidelines or requirements. I practice in the state of California. I've always lived in Southern California. And in California, we have an entire whatever A through H is, list of things that have to be part of reports. Like it actually says it in our regulation language, like every report shall include. So I always want to make sure, of course, we're including all of that information, right? So one of the things I think about when I think about comprehensive is that we're following all of our federal and state and sometimes district guidelines, requirements, procedures, whatever terminology fits best there. So I always want to make sure that I'm good about that. And I've been talking with some different groups in the last couple of months about this topic. And one of the things that's been helpful for me, my perspective on this, is if someone were to ask me, because again, I practice in California, we have a list of things that have to be involved in our report, have to be included. And so one of the thoughts I always have is, could I tell someone what page that is on? Like it needs to be that clear. Right? That like, oh yeah, that's on page 5, that's on page 2, or that's on page blah, 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 right? And so if there's something that's like a requirement, that's one of the, again, kind of perspectives I take is that it needs to be so clear that if someone was like, did you do that? I'm like, it's right there. We can all find it. Not that anyone's ever asked me what page it's on, but that's like my perspective to help make sure that I'm including all the stuff that I need to include. When I think about a lot of our federal regulation language, right, making sure that we don't make decisions based solely on, one piece of data or one score or anything like that. Okay, well, that might be on multiple pages within my report. But again, I always want to make sure, like, is that true about my report, right? If someone reading that, would they be like, oh yeah, she's got a lot of sources of data, right? And my eligibility discussion, I didn't just talk about, the student's low score on that one test, but I said, oh, by the way, that's also consistent with this and this and this, right? So making sure everything is super comprehensive in that way. And to me, because I'm not a big fan of the word balance, it's kind of like a harmony. with making sure we have all of that. And then these are two of my favorite words right now that have been really helpful for me when I think about my report writing and I think about how I'm explaining information to families. My two words that are, I was going to say meaningful, and then I was going to say helpful. Obviously, these are good words for me. It needs to be meaningful to the people I'm talking to, and it needs to be helpful. Now, this can be an interesting balance, harmony between making sure we have all the federal and state and regulation language and everything like that. So, in my reports, I'm a school neuropsychologist. I'm going to have a lot of standardized testing results in there. I do love a good standardized test. I love a good rating scale. I'm going to have that information that's in there. One of the things that I have found to really be focusing on lately when I think about meaningful and helpful are my summaries. Like, to me, that is a great place to kind of bring in, like, by the way, this is what this all means. Right? And I know for most of us, we have a summary at the end of the report. What I have been doing over the last couple of years is starting to add summaries in some of my different sections. So in my role, I'm typically doing like a cognitive processing section, most likely a social emotional section, behavioral section. In most of the school districts I help to support, school psychologists don't do the academic testing. I do, however, in my private practice do the academic testing. So when I'm thinking about my private practice reports, I'm also including a summary at the end of the academic section. And then all I do is copy and paste that to the summary at the end, right? Super helpful. But to me, that's such a great place for me to tell the reader, okay, I just gave you a bunch of standardized testing results, or I just told you a whole bunch of stuff about interviews and observations and rating scales. Like, let's bring this all together and actually tell you, like, this is it. This is all the information synthesized together. So for me, the summary has been the place that has been where I've been focusing a lot of my attention to really make sure that's that meaningful, helpful piece. And this is my perspective on things. Typically when I'm writing my report, I've got a little bit more brain power, and it's usually a little bit quieter. And I usually have some time to actually integrate everything together. Sometimes in the middle of an IEP meeting, there's some things going on. I might be feeling a little anxious. So-and-so showed up. Oh, they came up late. Or this person's having tech issues. Super fun things. When I think about being able to spend that time to synthesize it in my report, like in my summary, I find that's just so useful when I get to the verbal explanation then. Because I don't know about you, but I just review my summary, right? That reminds me, especially for those days where you have like 4 meetings in a row or 5 meetings in a row, and you're like, all right, what do I remember about this kid now, right? I love being able to look at a very helpful summary to just trigger in my mind, oh yeah, that's what I learned, right? Because this to me is the question I always try and remember to answer. What did I learn about the student? Right? From all the information, from all of our data sources, all of this wonderful standardized testing that many of us, utilize. What did it all mean? Like, what did I learn about your student? And that's what I want to make sure I'm conveying. Yes, there are certainly some meetings where I am going through and explaining test names and really focusing on scores, but I have to tell you, there's a lot of times that I'm bringing all of it together and really focusing on just answering the question, this is what it all means, right? I try and give out reports ahead of time. I do. I try. I didn't say it was 100%. I love it when my families have an opportunity to review the report before the meeting. Not all my families have that time or that capability of doing so, but when we do, then I really want to focus my attention at the meeting on this is what we learned about your student. And if I have that question in the back of my mind, it really helps me figure out how I want to do this in a succinct manner, right? If that's the question in my head, what did I learn about this student? And I have to say, for my years of having interns and practicum students, which I've always loved, this was always my question to them when they were participating in the evaluation process, is I really wanted them to go through all their information that they gathered about this student and really answered that question. I always wanted them to come to me first and just tell me, like, what did you learn about the student? And you're not allowed to tell me the name of a test or a subtest. I don't want to hear numbers. I want to hear words like clinically significant. I want you to tell me what you learned about this student. What did you learn about how they remember information? What did you learn about their academic functioning? What did you learn about their social emotional functioning? And how can we say that? Bringing together all the information that we've gathered. And so when I pose some different questions to my brain, I find a better way usually to explain the information rather than what did we find on the whisk or what did the Basque tell me. It's really, what did I learn about your student? And that really helps me synthesize that information and really be able to provide that information, hopefully, in a comprehensive yet succinct manner, right? I can still say, gosh, thanks so much for talking to me on the phone the other day and for filling out all those forms that I sent home. We're going to take that into consideration. Plus, when I got to go observe your student and I got to meet with them one-on-one, let me talk about all that information together. And in my report, I have everything. I have everything. You want to know a number? It's in my report. You want to know what the qualitative descriptor is? That is in my report. But when I get to the summarizing part, that's to me a place where I really like to back away from all of the individual data pieces and just synthesize them all together in some sort of succinct manner. Some days I do it well. Some days I could do it better. What I'm definitely working on. So I bring this up. I know a lot of you have come to my lives and you know that we are also promoting our summer boot camp. Summer boot camp is July 10th through the 21st. It is 2 weeks. Each day we're providing one training session. They start at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time because that's my time zone. And they last about 90 minutes to 2 hours. And we have one session every single day. And if you are interested and you haven't yet signed up, I will say we do have a deadline for one of our bonuses. If you sign up before the end of this month, you get access to some Q&A sessions that we had last year. So this is actually going to be my 4th year doing summer boot camp. It looks a little bit different every year. And last year we did some Q&A with a preschool psychologist, an elementary psych. We had a middle school and a high school psych. We asked questions with one of our psychologists who does a lot of bilingual evaluations. And we had a lot of questions about behavior. So what we did is, of course, we recorded those all last year, and we're going to make those available for anyone who signs up for this year's summer boot camp before the end of May. Now, in addition to that bonus, as I mentioned, there are 10 sessions, and we actually divide them into 2 groups. We have 5 sessions that we are calling that group the newer school psych, and we've got some great sessions that are really wonderful for people that are newer to the field, students, first year. I don't know, I feel like a lot of our school psychs feel like they're newer for about 5 years. And then we've got 5 sessions that we're calling Improving My Practice. And that's where this session is going to be in. I'm going to be talking much more in depth about this topic, explaining results succinctly. It's actually going to be our last session. It's going to be on the Friday, July 21st. And if you are actually going to be spending your summer not doing professional development, maybe you're going on a great vacation. Maybe you're going to stay at home and finally do some of that self-care. Maybe you're just going to sleep for, I don't know, 7 weeks, whatever you're doing. If you're not able to make any of our sessions live, we are recording all of them, and everyone who signs up for Summer Boot Camp will have access to the replays through the end of October. Now, to find out all the information about pricing, exactly what are all the rest of the sessions, we have all of that information on my website. Just go to the website name right above my picture here, jennyponzurek.com, and you can, right there on the front page, click on the link that says Summer Boot Camp, and you'll see all the information about pricing as well as a description of all of the different sessions, all 10 of them. All right, and you can either sign up for just 5 or the other 5, or of course we'll let you sign up for all 10, whichever ones sound helpful and interesting to all of you. So I want to say thank you for everyone who joined me live here, and I'm just going to double check. I didn't see any major questions coming up here. So I hope to see you all in Summer Boot Camp, and if you can't join us, I just hope everyone has a great rest of the school year. Get through May, and for those of you who still have a couple extra weeks in June, through there as well. If you have any follow-up questions after listening to this, you are welcome to go ahead and go to my website, jennyponzurek.com. Right there on the front page, about 2/3 of the way down, is a place for you to ask me a question. I'd love to answer or clarify anything. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.